a little after 4:30 in the morning in a quiet Katy, Texas subdivision. A 911 line picks up and a teenage voice, shaky, says he's just woken up and his twin sister is bleeding. He presses a pillow against her neck and starts CPR while paramedics were on their way to assist. Welcome to Echoes, the show where we listen to the stories that linger long after the headlines have faded. I'm Ron, and today we are delving into a case that is as baffling as it is heartbreaking. Imagine a bond that starts before birth, which is a bond of twins. Now, imagine one twin taking the other's life and claiming they were dreaming. And this is the tragic story of Benjamin and Meghan Elliott. Our story begins in a quiet suburban home in Harris County, Texas. In that home live 17-year-old twins Meghan, Benjamin, and their parents, and their routine rhythms of a family with high school seniors, school alarms, homework, chores, you name it. They have quiet neighbors who waved and kept to themselves because the neighbors will later tell reporters that the twins seemed close and nothing about them, drew attention. But in the early morning hours of September 29, 2021, inside, the Elliott family is asleep. 17-year-old twins Benjamin and Meghan were in their separate bedrooms, and by all accounts, remember, they were inseparable and the best of friends. But in the dead of the night, that bond was shattered in the most unimaginable way. Because at 4:41 a.m., a frantic call comes into the Harris County 911 dispatch center. The voice on the other end is a young man, breathless and panicked, and it's none other than Benjamin Elliott. And this is how the 911 call goes. The dispatcher says, 911, was your emergency? And a panicked Benjamin said, I just got my sister. I thought it was a dream. I woke up and there was a knife in her neck. He tells the dispatcher he thinks he was dreaming. He says he woke up in his sister's bedroom, a knife in her neck, and he has no idea how it happened. He's confused and horrified, but when police and paramedics arrived, they walked into a scene of quiet horror. Benjamin performed CPR on Meghan in her bedroom, and emergency crews took over, but Meghan was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators recovered the knife. Tragically, there was nothing they could do for Meghan. From minute one, the facts split into two lanes. What physically happened and what Benjamin said about his state of mind. The immediate question for investigators was overwhelming. Why? What could possibly lead a teenage boy to kill his own twin sister, his supposed best friend? They looked for a motive, any motive. They searched through phones, social media, and talked to friends and family. And what they found was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Friends described Ben and Meghan as two halves of a whole. Meghan, being vibrant and kind, looked up to her brother, and Ben was protective, the quiet older brother, by just a few minutes. There was no signs of rivalry, no jealousy, no secrets, argument. Because prosecutor Megan Long and Maroon Kutani will later admit in court that they couldn't find any history of problems between the twins. So the motive was complete blank. But, Benjamin was detained and was taken in for questioning. He was distraught, crying, and he stuck to his story. But in court the next day, the prosecutor summarized what Benjamin told investigators. This is what Benjamin said. He woke up between 2:30 and 3 a.m. in his sister's bedroom. He saw a knife in her neck. Realizing he wasn't dreaming, he removed the knife, turned on the light, used a pillow to apply pressure, ran back to his room for his phone, and called 911. On that call, he said he had stabbed his sister. Dispatchers guided him through CPR, and 7 minutes into the call, his parent, who'd been asleep, can be heard yelling and crying after Benjamin calls out for help. But the prosecution, they felt like, this doesn't make no sense at all. They saw inconsistencies. They noted that Benjamin's demeanor during the interrogation and the medical examiner, what he found didn't quite, make sense. It didn't quite match. Because Benjamin claimed, that there was only one stab wound and the medical examiner found two. So for the prosecutors, was this detail a confused, adult mind would simply forget, or was it a crack in Benjamin's story? In the days that followed, investigators collected, the physical evidence and electronics, and the legal process moved forward. Benjamin was then charged with murder under Texas law. He was later, released on bail on a $100,000 bond since the incident. And this is where the case takes a turn into the fascinating and murky world of sleep science. Because Benjamin's defense team brought a renowned expert, Dr. Gerald Simmons, a specialist in sleep disorders, and he had a theory, a defense that is incredibly rare and difficult to prove, which is parasomnia, homicidal sleepwalking. According to the doctor, a person who is sleepwalking is not consciously aware but can retain some pockets of memory. But when he was talking about Benjamin Elliott in particular, the doctor said Benjamin usually fell asleep quickly but had trouble waking up and would have no memory of conversations at times. A sleep study showed Benjamin scored high on sleepiness scale, and it was not, so they were not clear what could have turned a normal night for Benjamin deadly. So then the doctor also testified that handling a knife might have been an automatic behavior due to Benjamin's history with knives, because he recalled Benjamin Elliott saying that he stabbed his sister after coming out of a dream. And in the eyes of the doctor, this is a perfect storm of factors such as sleep deprivation and the proximity of a knife, and this could have led to Benjamin stabbing his sister on the early morning hours of September 2021. The defense built their case around this idea. However, prosecutors argued the evidence did not support the defense's claims at all, because they do not believe that Benjamin was sleepwalking, because they pointed to the digital trail and said that Benjamin's phone showed he was awake shortly after the killing, because the phone logged steps to and from Meghan's bedroom, and that Benjamin turned off his school alarm and he later called 911. They argued these actions shows Benjamin was conscious and not in the fugue state. The jurors also heard, the state's theory that, a pillow might have been used to muffle Meghan's scream so no one could hear her. And during the closing argument, prosecutor Megan Long argued, premeditation. She was like, it wasn't a coincidence that the knife that Benjamin obtained the night before was the one used in the killing. But the most shocking thing is that, Benjamin's friends and family did confirm that he had a sleepwalking problem. And sleepwalking, is something that's ongoing thing in Benjamin's family. So you think that, maybe the prosecutors are going to consider that, but no, they did not. They're like, we have what we have. We're going to stand by it. Anyway, the case proceeds, and then, the jury, I think they were in a limbo, because imagine, that jury. On one hand, you have a grieving family, a young man with no history of violence and a mind-bending scientific explanation. On the other hand, you have a stark, undeniable fact. A young woman is dead and her brother is the one who did it. So in April 2023, a grand jury indicted Benjamin Elliott, who was 19 at the time, for first-degree murder. And the prosecution's stand was firm. They argued the sleepwalking defense was just a convenient excuse, and they focused on the evidence they have, which is the 2 stab wounds and Benjamin's own confession on the 911 call. So they asked the court, how sure are you he was asleep? That was what they said. The case, however, didn't go to a full jury trial. In turn of events, Benjamin Elliott's case was decided by a judge, and in February 2025, the judge delivered the sentence: 15 years in prison for the murder of Meghan Elliott. In Texas, murder usually ranges from 5 to 99 years, so 15 years is not a bad deal. The judge noted that, the jury asked for leniency and pointed to Benjamin's lack of prior criminal history and his compliance on bond. So under Texas parole rules, Benjamin will be eligible after 7.5 years. And as of this recording, in October 2025, multiple outlets report that Benjamin Elliott, now 21 years old, is serving his sentence in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice at the John B. Kennelly Unit in Karnes County. Reporting also knows that he plans to appeal the sentence. 15 years. It's a very long time, but for some, it might not feel like enough for taking a life. For others, it might feel like an eternity for an act you can't even remember. An act your own expert says was unintentional. This case leaves us with more questions than answers. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding of the human mind. Can we be held responsible for the things we do when we're truly not there? Like we're not mentally available, conscious. Like we're not there. Well, the legal system said yes, Benjamin Elliott is responsible. But the why remains a ghost. There was no fight, no anger, no clear reason. There's only the devastating aftermath. A family torn apart by an impossible tragedy. A daughter lost and a son in prison, all stemming from one dark, inexplicable night. The story of Benjamin and Meghan Elliott is a chilling echo of a broken bond, a dream that became a nightmare, and a question that may never be truly answered. Thank you for listening to the Echoes. Join us next time as we listen to another story that deserves to be heard. Take care.